Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. A very warm welcome to yet another session of this Weekend with Wisdom. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. K. Aravinda Rao, ji, joining us from Hyderabad. And those who follow Weekend with Wisdom regularly will know that we have been hosting Dr. Aravinda Rao for last 1.5 months. And he has been teaching systematically the three very important texts by Bhartrihari. The first session, he gave lecture on Niti Shatakam, which focuses on the Purushartha of Artha and Dharma. And then we had a Weekend with Wisdom on Shringara Shatakam of Bhartrihari, which focuses on the Purushartha of Kama. And now this weekend's session will be a conclusion, the pinnacle, zenith, which will be the Vairagya Shatakam of Bhartrihari. So before we begin, I just want to give a brief introduction to speaker to the new audience who might not know. Dr. Aravinda Rao ji is a retired DGP, Director General of Police of Andhra Pradesh, who studied Sanskrit under Mahamahopadhyay, Padma Shri Dr. Shri Pullela Shri Ramachandrudu, and then he studied Vedanta under Mahamahopadhyaya Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati ji, and he has authored many books on Hindu Dharma, including books about how to teach Hindu Dharma to children and on many other topics. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you for taking time for this session. Before I open the floor to you, I just want to do a small prayer. Om Sada Shiva Samarambha Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Shri Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. You can start the session now, sir.
Thank you. Om Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om. Thank you, Sri Nitin Sridharji, for the nice introduction. And welcome to this session of not of, but on the Vairagya Shataka of Bhartrihari. You are aware, some of you are aware that I spoke on the first two Shatakas. We know that Bhartrihari has written 3 Shatakas, Niti Shataka, Shringara Shataka, and Vairagya Shataka. I had 4 earlier sessions, 2 sessions on Niti Shataka, 2 sessions on Shringara Shatakam, and now we are going to have 2 sessions on the Vairagya Shatakam. Vairagya Shatakam, and I also told you that Bhartrihari has followed a particular pattern. He followed the pattern of covering the 4 Purusharthas, that is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Bhartrihari is mainly, he is following the same sanatana dharma tradition, the same Upanishadic tradition, the same tradition which has been told in the Gita, in order to analyze these Purusharthas and also analyze the ashramas. If we now see this Vairagya Shatakam, he is also analyzing the 2 ashramas. In the first 2 Shatakas, the Niti Shataka covered Artha and Dharma and Artha, these 2 Purusharthas mainly. And the Shringara Shataka covered mainly the Purushartha called Kama, that is one's individual quota of pleasures in life. Then the third Shataka, it is covering what is called the Moksha Purushartha. Moksha Purushartha is connected with the 2 ashramas in life. We know that there is a term called ashramas. Ashrama means, we know Purusharthas are Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, that we all know. What are the ashramas? Ashramas also, they are the Brahmacharya, where the student goes to the Gurukula, or to the teacher, and then he learns the scriptures. He knows the scriptures, that is the Brahmacharya ashrama. And also he learns the Dharma Shastra at the end of the Gurukula course. There is also teaching in Dharma Shastra. So Dharma Shastra is very essential for a person who is passing out of that Gurukula. Then when he enters the Grihastha takes care of Artha and Kama. So Dharma, Artha and Kama, these three Purusharthas are covered in the two ashramas, that is Brahmacharya and Grihastha. Then Moksha Purushartha. Moksha Purushartha is covered in two ashramas, that is the Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Vanaprastha ashrama and Sannyasa ashrama. In olden days, we see that if you read the Mahabharata and any other old texts, we see that all the ancient kings, they ruled for some time and then they handed over the kingdom to their children and then they peacefully retreated to the jungles. May not be necessarily jungles. Peacefully retreated to some secluded place where they could concentrate, they could think, they could spend their time on what is called Atma Vichara. Atma Vichara, it is not as though it has to be done only at that time. It's not like people say, Bhagavad Gita, it has to be read only after retirement. It's not like that. These people also, the kings, even the kings and all the other people also, they studied the Vedas, even in their boyhood, and again went through all this dharma, rituals and whatnot during Grihastha. But probably they didn't have enough time to apply. Probably they didn't have enough time to speculate on or contemplate on what is told in the Upanishads or what are the methods of contemplation and all that. So at that time, when after they retire, or rather retreat into the forest, like we call retreats nowadays. So the retreat into the forest, then they had ample time. Their only purpose, not as though they had ample time, their only purpose was to contemplate on the nature of the self, contemplate on what is the supreme reality. So that was the structure in olden days. That was the ideal recommended structure in olden days. Not that everybody followed, but many people followed. As we see, many people followed it. Many people, at least, they went to Vanaprastha, if not to Sannyasa. And some people went to took up Sannyasa also. Vanaprastha is that stage where a person may be living with his wife, and he will be just staying a very, very, what we call minimalistic life, totally minimalistic life, abandoning all pleasures and all wants and various pleasures of life, and contemplating on the Supreme. And Sannyasa is the next stage. Sannyasa is the next stage where he goes beyond all limitations, he realizes, he becomes a realized person, and he goes beyond all the limitations of, the society, which the society has given to a person. For example, when we talk about ourselves, what is myself? I belong to a particular religion, I belong to a caste, I belong to a sort of social status, and I have a particular status, and I have read this, I have read that, I am an intelligent man or a dull man, I am a man, I am an old man, I am a young man. All these identities are there. I am an Indian, I am this, that, etc. There are so many identities. So a realized person is one who goes beyond all these things. It is called Ativarnashrami. Upanishad calls him Ativarnashrami. Varna and Ashrama, Atitya Gachati. Ativarnashrama means he has gone beyond the limitations of Varna, Ashrama. All these things he has gone beyond. Basically, a sort of citizen of the world. He is sitting at the level of whatever is the supreme reality we call that the universal, the cosmic controller. So he is at that level, looking at all things from that point of view. So a totally dispassionate view. And he has got a sort of unconditional love for all beings because he sees the self everywhere. He sees the divinity in everybody. Isha Vasyamidagam Sarvam. He is in that stage. So he sees divinity in everybody. He loves everybody, a sort of unconditional love. So that is that stage of sannyasa. And he doesn't discriminate among people. So he is supposed to dwell on bhiksha. He is supposed to dwell on bhiksha from different houses. Because he goes beyond this caste and other things, he has to take bhiksha from all houses. So that sort of regimen was also there in olden days. And now if we see, now of course it is very, very difficult to find such people. Very rarely we do find such people because the society is not supporting the sannyasis now. The society and the sannyasi has to fend for himself nowadays. So he has to at least stay in a room. He has to stay in some sort of a sort of apartment at least, if not a big ashram, because the society cannot. The society, if the man goes begging, then naturally the society is not going to support, and people will say that he is such a sort of nuisance to society. So nowadays it may not be possible, but still there are some people who live by their standards. And then, for example, somebody like Paramarthananda in Chennai or somebody like Tattvavidananda, they don't have ashrams. They do stay in some small apartment where the devotees or students, not devotees, devotee is the wrong word, where the students, they do bring food every day, or they go to bhiksha to their houses and then have bhiksha in their house. So that is how very rarely you come across such people. So this ashrama is there, still it is there, but it is not like what it was in olden days. So anyway, Bhartrihari, coming to the subject, Bhartrihari in this Vairagya Shatakam, he is covering the subject of dispassion or Vairagya. And Vairagya is something, we need not feel afraid of Vairagya. Vairagya is something which is, somebody may think that Vairagya, how can you tell the modern people? So Vairagya, in fact, for the modern times, it is more relevant. We don't know in olden days when there was joint families and all the people, the family bonds and whatnot, it was very difficult to get Vairagya. But then now, with so much of social change, with so much of fractured relationships and all that, a person gets Vairagya. If you go to America, you see that people are, they can very comfortably listen to Vedanta, because Vedanta is very ideal for them, because there is absolutely, it doesn't talk about any personal bonds and other things. So anyway, Vairagya is that state of dispassion. Vairagya is a state of dispassion which every thinking person gets at some point of time in his life, in his or her life. Every thinking person gets. You can say just call it a day, and he will review what all achievements he has done during his life, and then during what all I have done in my life, and then review my relationships and all that. Okay, then we get a sort of detached feeling we do get. And that detached feeling, with that detached feeling, we say, okay, call it a day. I don't want anything further. So that type of attachment, that type of detachment, some people do get. Of course, some people may not get at all. Some people may live very sort of imbecile or rather insipid, dull life all through their lifetime, and then they will just pass away. And for some people, Shastra may help. Shastra means, for example, a book like Gita, a book like Bhartrihari Subhashita. Bhartrihari Subhashita actually follows, as I said, he follows our traditional approach of, say this, initiating a person into Vairagya. Because Vairagya, a person can also be initiated into Vairagya in a proper systematic thinking. So Shastra helps a person in systematically going about, systematically thinking on the nature of pleasures, nature of objects, nature of sense objects, nature of relations, and see their ephemeral or transient nature and how we come out of it. Gita always talks about it. Gita, in fact, in the Gita, Lord Krishna always tells about it. Gita is a text it is called practical Vedanta. It is not as though all other texts are impractical Vedanta, but it is called practical Vedanta by Swami Vivekananda, because it is told for the common man. It is metaphysics and also ethics for the common man. How a common man can conduct himself. That is what is told in the Gita. And he says that every place, Indriyartheshu Vairagyam, Anahankara Evacha, lines like that. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Doshanu Darshanam. You have to see the dosha darshanam. You have to do the dosha darshanam. That is, you have to see what are all the adverse things. When you are enjoying a thing, or when you think that something is a sukham, something is something which is desirable, you have to see the adverse effect also for that. Doshanu, it is called dosha darshanam. Dosha darshanam is a very standard practice in initiating a person into Vairagya. So like that, you see that even in the 16, 17 chapters also we see that we see Sukham. What is Sukham? What is Satvika Sukham? What is Rajasa Sukham? What is Tamasa Sukham? So all these things are analyzed. Bhagavad Gita is a book on human psychology, and it is intended to bring about an inner change. It is intended to bring about an inner change to develop a very strong personality, not to make a weak personality, a strong personality to understand things and to understand one's own dharma. Finally, Arjuna did not become a meek person. Finally, Arjuna's duty was to understand everything and then to fight. So a person who wants to develop Vairagya, he can develop Vairagya. A person who is very busy in active life like Arjuna, we have got a concept called Rajarshi in Gita. Rajarshi is a man who is a saintly king. But if it is needed to fight, he will jolly well fight. So that is his role. So that is the reason why we call Bhagavad Gita practical Vedanta. So, but here we are not talking about fighting or anything like that. We are only talking about how a person has to evaluate all these things in life, all these pleasures in life, and how he has to have developed a sort of detached view. And why is detachment needed? What is the greatness of detachment? Why is it needed? If you think, if you just reflect on that, the first thing is, it is a reality. Vairagya, what we see in this Vairagya Shatakam, or what we see in Vishayeshu Dosha Darshanam, that is seeing the doshas in various things, that is a fact of life. It is a philosophically valid thing, philosophically evaluated and valid thing. That is what is Vairagya. Raga is attachment, Vairagya is lack of attachment. That doesn't mean that you throw away all those things, but you reduce the dependency syndrome. It is not as though you sever your relationship with your son, daughter, etc., and then you cut off and then you just stay away. Not like that. You only reduce the sense of dependency. That dependency syndrome, as we call it. You reduce the dependency syndrome. Gita calls it anapekshaha. Anapekshaha suchir dakshaha. It says anapeksha. Apeksha means expectation. I expect something. I expect something from somebody. Yeah, my son has to treat me like this. My daughter has to treat me like this, or my daughter-in-law has to treat me like this, or somebody like my relation has to treat me like this, or my friend has to treat me like this. Apeksha. There is an expectation. When I go to a meeting, I expect that I have to sit somewhere in the front row. So all these are expectations. Suppose I am asked to sit in a rear row, then I feel bad. So all these things are apeksha. So Gita tells a person has to be anapeksha, unless you are in politics. In politics, of course, that may not be a virtue. But for a normal person, for a person who is a mumukshu is a person who is a seeker, a person who is on the path of spirituality. He has to cultivate these virtues which are told in the Gita. So this is something, Vairagya is something which is philosophically valid. That is number one. Number two, it brings us more happiness. It gives us more happiness. Our mind is bogged down with so many relationships and so many expectations, then our mind is so totally confused. And then it is always worried. My son said like this, my daughter said like this, and my friends are saying like this. So all these things are bothering us. So, but once we develop that sense of detachment, it gives us more happiness. It gives us more balance. It makes us happier in life and more efficient to deal with things. Not only happier, more efficient to deal with the various situations. Number three, it is essential for a seeker. For a seeker, it is essential mainly because it gives the proper frame of mind. It produces the proper frame of mind in order to do Shastra Vichara. In all our texts, whether it is if you take Viveka Chudamani, Shankaracharya compares it to the two wings of a bird. What are the two wings of a bird? One is Vairagya and one is knowledge. If you are a scholar, if you go to a university and then if you read all the Upanishads and all the Gita Bhashyam and Upanishad Bhashyam and Brahma Sutra Bhashyam and whatnot, you don't become a Jnani. You may become a scholar, but you cannot be called a Brahma Jnani. Brahmajnani, according to us, according to our Siddhanta, according to our tradition, is one who has attained that inner change, who has attained that inner awareness. So what is that inner change? He has gone beyond all the limitations. Unless a person has gone beyond all the limitations, then that no inner change has come. He may be a good scholar, he may teach Vedanta, he may argue on behalf of Vedanta, he may be a good apologist for Vedanta. But then he will not be having that inner transformation. So that inner transformation can come only through Vairagya. Inner transformation, evaluating oneself, evaluating one's own raga, dvesha, all these things. Bhagavad Gita starts with analysis of kama. Kama, esha, krodha, esha, rajoguna, samudbhava, analysis of kama. Because the kama is the origin, kama is a desire, not sexual desire only. Kama means desire in general. So kama that transforms into hate, that transforms into krodha, that is anger, that transforms into greed, that transforms into jealousy, that transforms into so many other things. Kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. It is a series of, in English, they call it 7 deadly sins. So these are Ari Shad Varga, we say. Ari Shad Varga is the group of 6 enemies. Ari is enemy. Shat is 6. Varga is group. Ari Shad Varga is the group of 6 enemies. Who are they? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, etc. These are all evaluated when a person sits and then thinks about what is his position and what are his feelings and what are his emotions. Then our mind becomes calm. And it is only when we develop Vairagya that the mind is in a position to think in the lines given in Vedanta. Vedanta says, okay, you think about what is your real nature. You think, you examine whether you are this Annamaya Kosha, whether you are this body-mind body. Then you have to, it says, okay, you examine whether you are Pranamaya Kosha. You examine whether you are Manomaya Kosha. So it says, you think, you analyze on, you go about examining yourself on these lines, because Vedanta talks about examining the examiner. If you want to know the external world, you are able to see the external world with the help of mind and senses. But if you have to know about the supreme reality, you have to go through the mind only, and the mind has to be absolutely pure. Mind should not be bogged down with so much of dust. When there is so much of dirt in the mind, all this kama, krodha, lobha, they are all called the dirt of the mind. So if we have all that dirt in our mind, we cannot contemplate. So once this dirt has to be removed, and for the removal of the dirt, what is called is Vairagya is something which is very essential. So that is where we are. That is the context of this particular text called Vairagya Shatakam. Now we come to this text. And as the earlier 2 Shatakas, like the earlier 2 Shatakas, this Shataka also has 100 slokas divided into 10 sections. Earlier also we saw that Niti Shataka divided into 10 sections. Shringara Shataka about 6 sections, I think. This Shataka again, it is classified into 6 sections, and it's very comfortable because each section deals with a particular subject. So today I wish to cover maybe about 5 sections. Choosing about 5 sections means covering 50 slokas. 50 slokas I cannot cover, so I will choose about 15 to 20 slokas, and I will briefly comment on them. So that is how it is going to be. And Vairagya is something which has to be cultivated over a period of time. It is not through some emotion, or it is not through some sort of sentimentalism. For sentimentalism, we have got examples like Purana Vairagya Nyaya. Purana Vairagya is you become suddenly sentimental after listening to some Swamiji. Or Prasuti Vairagya, a lady delivers a babe and then thinks, oh, this is something, this hell I will not undergo in future. Or Smashana Vairagya, you see somebody dying and then we say, oh, what is this, what is there in life, etc. So these are temporary emotional phases. It's not like that. Vairagya is something which is properly thought of, properly analyzed, properly examined. We have examined all the human emotions and we have come to a particular point in this. So that is what is Vairagya. And now we come to this, when we see the text starts with an invocation to Lord Shiva. Why Lord Shiva? Because Shiva is somebody who is very close to the sannyasi we see. Shiva is somebody who is said to dwell in Smashana, who is said to have just a loin cloth around him. Cloth means that also animal hide he wears. And he wears some bhasma all over the body, etc. He is somebody who is akin, who is very close to this sort of avadhuta, a person who is very close to this sort of sannyasi type of picture. So that is the reason why usually the sannyasis, the people who are in this this particular path, they choose the picture of Shiva. It is not as though they don't like Vishnu or anything like that. Vishnu also is there, but Vishnu is more associated with Sthiti, Srishti, Sthiti, Laya. If we see, Shiva is associated with that Laya or resolution of the soul creation. So here also this Laya, individual Laya goes on. See that just like Pralaya, there is also the individual Laya. Individual Laya means this individual dissolves into that higher reality, that Aham becomes a Soham. So that is that Laya at a personal level. So Laya Karaka is again Rudra or Shiva. So that is the reason why Shiva is more appropriate here. Vishnu means, of course, you go to a Vishnu temple there, of course, Vishnu is then again some Dadyodhanam, Pongal, and all those things you see in Vishnu. And there is more of life and more of color there. But here, not so much of color. So that is how Shiva is more appropriate for a sadhu or a sannyasi. So the Mangala Charanam starts like this, wonderful shloka. Chudottam sita charu chandra kalika chanchat shikha bhaswaro Leela dagdha vilola kama chalabha shreyo dashagre spuran Antaspurja dapara moha timira pragbhara muchatayans chetas sadmani yoginam vijayate jnana pradipo haraha. So I will not go into the detailed explanation, I will tell the general meaning. So this is here it is mentioned about how Shiva wears that Chandra Kala, that is signifying that he is somebody who bestows happiness to the devotees or to the sadhakas. And again, Chandra also represents mind, moon represents the mind. So that also shows that your mind will become properly purified. So then again, crescent moon, Leela Dagdha Vilola Kama Shalabha. Kama, that is the Manma, this Manmatha was just destroyed like a Shalabha. Shalabha is a small locust, some small grasshopper, which is like this Kama Shalabha is a grasshopper. Just like a grasshopper gets reduced to ashes in a fire, so similarly, Shiva with his eye of knowledge, with that eye of knowledge, he destroyed Kama. That is mentioned here. Then Antaspurja Dapara Mohatimir, and whatever darkness which is there inside the mind, Chetas Sadmani means Chetas itself is a Sadma. Chetas means mind. The mind itself is a dwelling place. In that dwelling place, there is so much of darkness. So all that darkness is dispelled. That is Jnana Pradipo Haraha. He is a big lamp which dispels the inner darkness. That is called ignorance. Ignorance means lack of self-awareness, self-knowledge. That is the only thing. You may be a great professor, you may be great economist or great something else. But then, so long Vedanta takes the liberty of calling all of us as ignorant people. So long as we do not know Atma Jnana, we don't have Atma Jnana, Vedanta calls all of us Ajnanis. So we have to excuse Vedanta for that. Then we come to the first chapter, the first session. It is called the first section, let us say. It is called Trishna Dushana. Trishna is desire. Trishna is basically desire. Another word is Kama. Kama, when we say, usually we refer to the man-woman relationship only. But Kama is also a general word. In Gita, if you see Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, it is used as in a general sense, not in the sense of the man-woman sexual relationship. So here also Trishna is something which is a general thing, greed. Krishna is a desire, not even greed, not greed, desire. So this desire is something which makes us do all things. Because of this desire that you go, you take up so many endeavors and then you move here and there, and we go from pillar to post, from company to company in modern days, and how we totally give up our self-respect. Sometimes people may give up self-respect, sometimes, and very often we do give up our values, our culture, etc. That is what he says. Bhrantam Desham, Bhrantam Desham Aneka Durga Visham. Shloka number 2. Bhrantam Desham Aneka. I took pains to move here and there, to go to so many places. Tyaktva Jati Kulabhimanam. Giving up all the self-respect, all the respect of our jati, respect of our, say, let us say, values, culture, let us say, all those things, and Vichitam Seva Krita Nishpala, and all, I served all useless people. Bhuktam Manavivarjitam, I was eating only Manavivarjitam, not with great respect, something which was thrown, I was just eating like that. And Trushne Jrumbhasi Papa Karma Pishane, and this Trishna is something which has made me do all these things. It has made me roam around. It has made me serve bad people. And regarding the bad people, he comes out with a more with stronger words. In 4th shloka, he says, "Khalollapa sodha." Khala means Khalanaik. You maybe remember film also. Khala is a bad person. Khala ullasa sodha. Kathamapi tada aradhana parai. So we have tolerated the talks of all these useless people, all these bad people, or rather mean people, and served these mean people. Kathamapita aradhana parai. We served them. And nigruhya antarbashpam. Antarbashpam means inwardly shedding tears. That means inwardly antaha bashpam. Bashpa is tears. Inwardly shedding tears means inwardly unhappy. But outwardly, hasitamapi shunyena manasa, with an empty mind. Shunyena manasa, with an empty mind, I was just putting on a show of smile. Then Kurto Vittasambha Pratihata Dhyam Anjali Rapi. Vittasambha Pratihata Dhyam. Bhartrihari uses wonderful expressions, particularly in this Shrungara Shataka and also Vairagya Shataka. Niti Shataka, you don't find such wonderful expressions, but Shrungara Shataka and Vairagya Shataka, because he has to generate this dispassion, he uses very strong terms. Vittasambha Pratihata Dhya means a person who has acquired wealth. And with that wealth, his mind becomes bloated. A person who has a bloated mind, we say, bloated ego, we say. So with that ego, he refuses to think. Pratihata dhi. Pratihata dhi means buddhi. So he just doesn't want to listen. He doesn't want to think. He says, what I say is right. So that is Vittasambha. His mind is frozen. He refuses to think. So what he says is right. And such people were saved. Such people were respected and by me. That is Pratihata Dhiyam Anjali Rapi. I did Anjali. Anjali means holding my hands. I stood in front of them. Tvam ashe moghashe kim aparamato nartayasimam. Why are you making me dance? Oh Asha. He is addressing Asha. Oh Trishna. Oh desire. Why do you make me dance like this? So that is how this Trishna Dushana goes on. And if I read one more sloka, for example, sloka number 6. So he says, so he compares his acts with the acts of sages. Sages, what do they have? Sages have the qualities like Shama. Shama means forgiveness, tolerance, and then accommodation, all these. It's a very, very positive virtue. And they also do tapaha. Tapaha means tolerating, not tolerating, but tapa is Vrata Acharanam. It's a very difficult, austere life, very difficult austerities they do. And again, they do dhyanam. They do all these things. Sages do all these things. We also did all these things, but not with the motive with which they did. Our actions are similar to the actions of the sages, but then the purpose was totally different. Here, Shantam na kshamaya, he says. Shantam, we displayed kshama, we displayed our capacity for forgiveness or tolerance or whatever, but not due to a sense of, with a spirit of kshama, but then helplessly. We were helpless before somebody was shouting or somebody was beating, we tolerated. Like Gandhi said, okay, you tolerate. If somebody is killing you, tolerate. So like that, Shantam na kshamaya, not out of a sense of kshama. Then Gruhochita Sukham Tyaktam na Santoshatah. Gruhatyaga. We left the family and then we moved about in various places. In olden days, they used to seek livelihood in various places. They used to go for months and months. So, but Gruhochita Sukham Tyaktam, Gruhatyaga. Who do that Gruhatyaga? Sannyasis and all these sages, they do Gruhatyaga. And like the sages, we also did Gruhatyaga. We also went out of house. And Sodho Dussaha Sita Vata Tapana Kleshaha Na Taptam Tapaha. So we did not do tapas like the saints, but then we tolerated all this regimen called Dussaha Sita Vasa Tapa. Like the saints, they, with a sense of titiksha, what is called titiksha, they endure all the extremities. We also endured all the extremities helplessly, not with that mentality, but helplessly we endured all those things. Then dhyatam vittam aharnisham. We also did dhyanam. We also, like them, like sages do dhyanam. We also did dhyanam on what? Dhyanam vittam aharnisham. Day and night, aharnisham, day and night we contemplated on money. Then niyamita pranaihi. And with all humble, in all humble way, we contemplated on money only. Na shambhoh padam. We did not contemplate on the feet of Shambhu. Tat karma krutam yadeva munivihi tais phalair vanchitaha. We did exactly what all the sages did, but then not with the same spirit. So that is the reason why we did not get the phalam which they are getting. So like this, our actions may be similar. Then I will see one more shloka from this section. This is shloka number 7. Bhogana bhuktaha vayameva bhuktaha. This is quite often quoted by various teachers of Vedanta. Bhogana bhuktaha vayameva bhuktaha tapona taptam vayameva taptaha. So that is the point here is, we thought we enjoyed various pleasures. But in reality, those pleasures, they consumed us. Bhogana bhuktaha vayameva bhuktaha means we thought that we were enjoying all these pleasures, but those pleasures, they consumed us. And then tapona taptam vayameva taptaha. We thought we were doing all types of austerities and whatnot, but it is not so. We ourselves, we only are consumed with that. We were only thinking that we were doing tapam. It's not like that. Kalona yato vayameva yataha. It is not as though the time has passed. We have passed away. We are passing away. Kalaha nayataha means it is not as though time has passed. We are only, it is we who are passing away. Trushnana jirna vayameva jirna. This Trishna, desire, has not become old, but we have become old. So this is how there is a sort of wrong understanding of things. And if we see properly, what all we think that we have done, all those achievements are actually not achievements. In fact, we see that we earn money losing wealth, because they say during youth, somebody spends his whole time and then spends his entire youth earning money. And with that money, he will try to regain health, which he has lost. In the process of earning money, he has lost. So that is what we see. And we spend money to again regain health. So that is how bhogana bhuktaha vayameva bhuktaha. Then, if you see one more sloka, for example, it says, all limbs have gone old. All limbs have become decrepit and old, but only desire is very, very young. Valivihi mukham akrantam. All the face, if we see the face, mukham akrantam, all vali means all types of furrows on the face, that we say wrinkles. Wrinkles of the face has become wrinkled. And palitaihi ankitam shiraha. And the hair, if we are fortunate, at least some little gray hair will be there. Some people will not even have that. I should not even say fortunate while talking about Vairagya Shatakam. Some people may have gray hair, some people lose even that. And gatrani shithilayante, all the limbs, they become shithilayante. They become what we can say relics, or they become decrepit. Like one poet says, decrepit age has been tied to me as to a dog's tail, says one English poet, Yeats, W.B. Yeats says, decrepit age has been tied to me as to a dog's tail, he says. People sometimes they tie one small tin box to a dog's tail and then put some stones in that. So whenever the dog moves, the tin box will be making some sound. So like that, when the old man walks, all these rickety limbs will be making some noise. So that is what that poet says. Gatrani shithilayante, trishnaika tarunayate. Only this trishna, only this desire is very, very young. Then I come to the next section. That is, it is called Vishaya Parityaga. Vishaya Parityaga is giving up the Vishaya in Vedanta. The Vedanta term is Vedanta. It means all the sense objects. Sense of Vishaya is, my car is a Vishaya. All the latest iPhone 13 or something like that is, what is that Vishaya? All the latest things, latest car, latest gadgets, latest various other things, and then so many things which we see in all our advertisements, they are the Vishayas. They are the Vishayas which provoke us to buy them, to have them, to enjoy them, so which offer enjoyment. So these are the things. Vishayas, they have to be slowly reduced, and then they have to be controlled. So that is giving up these worldly desires and possessions, pursuits, not desires, pursuits and possessions. So what does it say? So he says, the first statement is, I don't see any benefit from all these worldly possessions, he says, including punyam. You see, worldly possessions not only mean various material possessions, but also a person who has done many good deeds, good karmas. He has performed some yajnas and then all so many rituals and whatnot, and he has also attained some punya. So he says, initially he says, first line he says is, na samsarotpannam charitam anupashyami kushalam. I don't see anything great in whatever I have achieved in this life. And all this punyam which I have achieved, it is actually frightening me, he says. Vipaka punyanam janayati bhayam me vimrushataha. If I think on what is this punyam, vimrushataha means if I do vimarsana, if I just see, if I see my own punyam, I am scared. Why? Usually punyam we are not scared. But in Vedanta we see that punyam also is equal to papam, because just like papam entails another birth, punyam also entails another birth. So if a person has got a lot of punyam, maybe he will stay in some loka, in some divine loka for some time, and then again he will come back to life. He will come back to earth. Then again he has to do something else. Then again he will go to either to a better place or to a downward place. So like that he continues to be in this cycle called samsara. Samsara means cycle of birth and death. This samsaranam. So samsara, the meaning of the word samsara is samsaranam. That is samyak sarati. That is, he keeps on moving, he keeps on rotating. It is like that wheel, like that wheel, he keeps on rotating, then goes out and comes in, goes out and comes in. So Janma Marana Chakram, it is said. And the person gets freed from this Janma Marana Chakra only when he realizes his real nature. Only when he realizes his real nature, that his self is not different from that supreme self. Then the body-mind complex and what we call this linga sharira, that dissolves, that linga sharira or that ego, all that thing dissolve. Only when that ego dissolves, it is only then he will not have another life. As long as that ego is there, as long as the mind is there, there is a rebirth. So that is the theory of Vedanta. So here punyam is also frightening to me. He says, Mahadbhih punyauhi chiraparigruhitascha vishayaha. Oh, all these things, with all this punyam, I have got so many things, so many material comforts and all that. And it is creating vyasanam in me. It is creating vyasanam means I have got all these good things because I have done so many pujas. So let me do some more pujas, I will get some more things. Let me do some more vratams, I will get some more things. So it is a vyasanam which keeps on, which has tied me down to all these things. So that is how he starts. Then if you see another shloka, then he says, the next shloka number 12, he says, you see, when all these things which come, all these comforts which are there, they are anyway, they are going away sometime or the other. So when they go away, we feel bad. When all these things, they go away, it may be our various relationships, or it may be various objects. When these things, they go away, we feel bad. Why can't we voluntarily give up? If we voluntarily give up, that is called as shama. Shama is antahkarana niyamanam. You see, there are two words called shama and dhamma. Dhamma is controlling the external indriyas. Shama is controlling the mind. So by better control on the mind and by better exercise of our own rational thinking, why not we ourselves give up? If I give it up myself, then I'll be more happy. That is what he says. Avasyam yataraha chirataram ushitvapi vishayaha. All these vishayaha, though they stay with us for a long time, avasyam yataraha, they are just going away. Agamapayuno anityaha, that is what Gita says. So they are bound to go away. So if you are bound, if they are all bound to go away, it creates some viyoga. All sanyoga, viprayoga antaha, there is a saying, all associations, they live in, they have, at some point they have to be separated. When once they get separated, we feel bad. Why not we develop dispassion about that? He says. Then if Rajanta Swatantriyad, Atula Paritapaya, if they themselves go away, then it gives a lot of paritapam. Paritapam means dukkham to the mind. It gives a lot of pain to the mind. Why can't we do? Why can't we relinquish? Why can't we relinquish them voluntarily? He says. Then he talks about the Brahmajnana in the next shloka. Brahmajnana vivekino amaladhiya. He starts like that. So in shloka number 13, he says, Brahmajnanam. What is Brahmajnanam? I just told you Brahma. What we say is that highest reality. Whatever is that supreme. Brahma does not mean the four-headed Brahma, who is the husband of Saraswati. Brahma, when we say in Vedanta, there are two words called Brahma and Brahma. When we say Brahma in Sanskrit, that word refers to the four-headed Brahma. It is a masculine word. When we say Brahma, it is a neuter gender. It is not a masculine word nor a feminine word. It is a neuter gender, Brahma. So this Brahma is that supreme reality, which is not a person. It is a sort of impersonal reality. It is of the nature of pure consciousness, infinitely existing consciousness. That is what the Taittiriya Upanishad says, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. So that is infinitely existing consciousness. That is that reality. So that is why that for that consciousness, there is no gender. So that is why it is told in the neuter gender. So Brahmajnana Vivekinaha Amalathiyaha. So that consciousness is something which is manifesting as this whole universe. That is what the Vedanta Siddhanta is. So that Jnanam gives us that dispassion. Brahmajnana, you see, Vairagya develops, helps in understanding things properly. And knowledge also helps in developing Vairagya. They are mutually supporting. You see, unless Vairagya is there, you cannot focus your mind and think properly on what Shastra says. And if Shastra is saying you think in this fashion, you think on these lines and develop Vairagya, that also will help, it will develop our Vairagya. So they are mutually supporting, Vairagya and Bodha. It is called Vairagya Bodhau Purushasya Pakshivat, says Shankaracharya in the Viveka Chudamani. Vairagya Bodha. Bodha means knowledge. So that is what he says here. Brahmajnana Vivekinaha Amaladhiyaha. Then coming about the timing, Bhartrihari is said to be older than Shankaracharya. I don't mean that he read Shankaracharya or anything like that, because this is all the knowledge of the Upanishads, knowledge of the Gita, which was there much prior to Shankaracharya and also prior to Bhartrihari. So Brahmajnana Vivekinaha, what do? They voluntarily, even when they are having all the comforts, all the kings, if we read Bhagavatam, you find all the kings who enjoyed all wealth and all possessions, they voluntarily gave up. He says, that is what he says, Yan Munchanti, Upabhoga Bhanjyapi. Upabhoga Bhanjyapi means even as they are enjoying all good things in life, they just abandon them. And then another example in history is Buddha. So like that, na praptani purana sampraticha na praptau nacha praptau dridha pratyayo. In our case, we don't have all them, we don't have any possessions, and there is no hope that we are going to have all those possessions. But still, greed, that desire is not leaving us. This desire, and also vanchamatra parigrahanyapi param tyaktum na shaktavayam. Though we don't have any of those things, we are not able to give up our hopes, give up our desires for them. So that is shloka number 13. In another shloka, that is shloka number 17, he talks about Lord Shiva. So here we see how Shiva is a perfect example of a person who has balanced both raga and viraga. He is a person who has balanced raga in the sense that he has got Parvati, half the body is the female Shakti, and half the body is Shiva Parvati, the Ardhanarishwara. So he has balanced it that way. But at the same time, he is the topmost among the yogis. He is having, though he has the part of the body is Parvati, half the, he is the topmost among the yogis. Of course, in Puranas, we see that there is another wife called Ganga to Shiva, but then it is not there. It is not there in the Puranas. In some only probably in later films or so, it has come like that. Ganga is nowhere mentioned as the wife. Some poets, unfortunately, they have mentioned like that. In Telugu, we have got one poet called Srinatha. So such people, they write poems. For example, he says, "Oh Paramesha, Ganga Vidumu Parvati Salam," he says, Oh Lord Shiva, you leave Ganga. You are actually a beggar. Why do you want two wives? You leave Ganga to us, when there was some sort of drought in his area. So he told that poem. So he thought it was a big rain. But unfortunately, there is a popular notion that Shiva is having two wives. It is not there supported in our text. Shiva is having only Shiva and Shakti, or Shiva and Parvati, as we say. So he says, in shloka number 17, Eko Ragishu Rajate Priyatama Dehardhadhari Haro. Priyatama Dehardhadhari. So that half the body is given to his Priyatama. And again among saints, Nirageshu Janaha Vimukta Lalanasangona Yasmat Paraha. Beyond him, there is no other greater saint, no other tapasvi. So he is always sitting in tapas. And all these Durvara Smara Bana Pannaga Vishab Yavidhamugdho Janaha, and all these people, all the ordinary people, smitten by or hit by the arrows of that Manmatha, all other people, hit by the arrows of that Manmata, they are not able to leave. They are not able to leave these Vishayas. They are not able to leave the sensual pleasures. Their kama not only means this sexual pleasure, but all other sensual pleasures also. We are not able to leave these sensual pleasures. So this Shiva is both a symbol of love and also symbol of renunciation. So that is how the Shiva is portrayed here. Bhoga and Tyaga, both are balanced in Shiva according to Bhartrihari. Then again, another sloka I will take up. Then he says, we have all wrong perceptions in life, he says. 19, sloka number 19, he says, we have got wrong perceptions. For example, when I feel hungry, hunger actually, Vedanta, the way in which Vedanta or Bhartrihari says is, hunger is actually a sort of weakness of the body. It is actually a sort of, what can we say, it is an ailment of the body. It is a roga, we can say. For that roga, you have to take some bhiksha. You have to take some medicine. So bhikshaushadham bhujyatam, says Shankaracharya. So we have to take some medicine. When we eat food, it is like the medicine for the disease called hunger. When we take water, it is a medicine for the disease called thirst. So like that, various other things also. Then Sudeep, when the lust is there in a person, so he embraces his wife. So that again is a sort of disease. So whatever remedy we are taking, or whatever remedy we are having for controlling a disease, we think they are the pleasures. So we think that we have taken food and it is a pleasure. We drink something and we think it is a pleasure. We embrace a woman and we think it is a pleasure. But they are not actually pleasures. They are actually pratikaram vyadhehe. Sukhamiti viparyasyati janaha. Whatever is the medicine for a vyadhi, vyadhi means a disease. Whatever is a medicine for a vyadhi, we think that it is the medicine. We think that it is a pleasure. He says, Trushad shushyatyasyye pibati salilam shita maduram. So when you are thirsty, you are drinking some water. When you are hungry, you are eating something. And when pradipte kamagnav, when that fire called kama generates in a person, then sudrudhataram alingati vadhum, he embraces his vadhu. Vadhum is wife. He embraces his wife. Then this pratikaram yadhe, whatever is the pratikaram, whatever is the remedy for this disease, we think that it is actually a pleasure. So this is how Vairagya Bodha is done in the text. Actually, we have to see from this point of view also. Then another sloka, for example, he says, he gives an example of a very commendable type of renunciation. What is a commendable? What is a despicable type of renunciation? A very contemptible type of renunciation is when you are totally helpless, when you are beaten by your wife or something like that, or when you are beaten by your children, helplessly you go out and take up sannyasa. That is a very contemptible way of sannyasa. But here it is a commendable way of sannyasa. What is a commendable way of sannyasa? Tungam Veshma. A person has got a wonderful mansion. Sutas Satam Abhimataha. And the sons are praised. They are all very successful in life. Satam Abhimataha means all the people in society, they admire him. They say, oh, son is a great man, something like that. Sankhyaatigas Sampadaha. And Sampada, wealth also is there. Kalyani, Daita, wife also is a good lady. And Vayasya Navam, and also he is not very, very old, he is also young. So that is why this, when we develop Vairagya in a very old age, there is nothing great. So if somebody develops Vairagya at an young age, that is something which is commendable. So if we see, we naturally at some point of time, everybody develops Vairagya because we get some knocks, as we say, he has got some knocks on the head. So a person who doesn't get knocks but still develops Vairagya, seeing by examining what the ways of the world, then he is a real Viragi. So Navayasya Navam, then Sandrusya Kshanabhanguram Tadakhilam Dhanyastu Sanyasyati. So he is a person who is a Dhanya. Dhanya means somebody who is a blessed person. Dhanya, we can translate it as a very, very blessed person. He renounces all these things, or he develops Vairagya. So such a person, that renunciation or that man's Vairagya is something which is commendable if done from a point of strength, not from a point of helplessness. There is also, earlier also we saw one line, Shantam na Kshamaya. Shantam na Kshamaya means we tolerated everything, not because of a sense of Shama, And that is what Mahabharata, Viduraniti says. Viduraniti says, a person, if a strong person shows forgiveness, that is a virtue. If a weak person shows forgiveness, where is the virtue in that? So similarly, a person who has all the possessions, so he develops dispassion. That is something which is commendable. Somebody who is a very helpless fellow, he develops vairagya. What is so commendable or so great about it? Then we come to another sloka. We come to the next section. We come to the next section called Yachana Dainya Dushana. Now I think we have got some more time. Yeah, we are still in the second section only. I'll slightly move fast. So the Yachana Dainya. Yachana means begging. In olden days, this begging was also there. For example, if we see, a Brahmana was expected to live by begging. Brahmanas, that is what we see in Gita also, Mahabharata also. Pandavas, when they were in hiding in Ekachakrapura, they lived by begging. They stayed in a Brahmin's house and then they lived by begging. Begging is going to some people's house and then getting some bhiksha and then presenting to their mother. So that was a very, very accepted way of life in olden days. But now, of course, it is looked upon with a lot of contempt. So this Yachana Dainyam, so Bhartrihari, in Bhartrihari's time, it was still there. Probably it was still there till about 100 years ago, because we used to see that people used to come and then many people, they studied having food in different houses. On Monday, a person goes and has food in one house. Tuesday, he has food in some other house. Wednesday, he has food in some other house. So like that, many great people have studied like that. Many people, great people. They moved from house to house, had their food in all these places, and then they studied, became big people also. So probably it was there till about 50, 60 years ago, maybe about 50 years ago. But now it is very, very rarely seen. I don't know, there may be some people. But here, what he says is, this ignoble, very undignified life of, imploring or pleading before others, that is something which has to be avoided. Though a person is supposed to do Bhikshatanam, he has to do Bhikshatanam in a very dignified way. If it is not possible to do Bhikshatanam in a dignified way, he has to retreat to the forest. So that is what is the crux of this section. Yachana Dainya Dusham. Yachana, that requesting others, it should not be with a sense of Dainyam. Dainyam is that helplessness, with a sense of what can we say, beggarly manner. It should not be done in a beggarly manner. It has to be done with a sort of self-respect. Then in this section we see, for example, if such helpless situation arises, one has to retreat to forest, he says. For example, he says, in a very rhetorical way, he asks, don't we have caves in the mountains? We do have caves in the mountains. We can go and dwell there. Don't we have trees in the forest? The trees in the forest, they do give fruits. Probably in olden days, because all this forest was not occupied, they still probably had so many trees and then fruit-bearing trees. If we see this shloka, we understand. Kim kanda kandarebhya pralayam upagataha. In a very rhetorical way, he asks, have they all ceased to exist? Pralayam upagataha means, have they all ceased to exist? They are still there. All these kandaras, all these cave mountains are still there. And nirjharava giribhya, all these rivulets flowing on the hills, are they not there? They are very much there. And pradvastava tarubhya sarasa phalabhruto valkalinyascha shakha sarasa phalabhrutah. Wonderful trees, all juicy fruits given by all these trees. Have they all disappeared? And all these valkala means bark clothes. Are the trees not capable of giving the bark clothes? The trees are surely capable of giving these bark clothes. So all these things are available in nature. Why can't we live like that? Why should you go and beg? So that is what he says. Vikshante yan mukhani. And if you go to that kala means all these mean people. What do they do? All these mean people, they look down on us and then they throw their brows, they knit their brows and then Dukhapta swalpa vittas maya pavanavashantarita bhulatani. Anartita bhulatani. So, as I said, he uses extremely good expressions. That is, these fellows have acquired some money. Having acquired some money, that arrogance has given them that airs of superiority. In fact, that air of superiority or airs of arrogance is the exact translation of the word he uses. Smaya Pavana. Smaya means pride. Pavana means air. That airs of pride. Smaya Pavana is actually Bhartrihari also uses this. Dukhata Swalpavitta Smaya Pavana Vashanta Vasha Anartita Brolatana. With those power of, with that airs of superiority or airs of power or airs of pride, that airs they are making that brew. Brew means bro. All these bros they are knitting here like this, and then they are looking down on us in a very contemptible manner. They are looking down on us instead of asking all these fellows, better to retreat to forest. So that is how he says in this shloka. And again, we say, he says, he also asked his friend, oh friend, let us go, let us go. Bhushayam navapallavaihi akurpanaihi uttishta yavo vanam. So he calls his Priye, hey Priye. Priye, he may be telling his wife, or maybe hey Priya also it means. That means he may be telling his friend, oh friend, why do you stay here? Why should we stay here, living some miserable life, living such contemptible life? Why not we go to the forest, he says. Vittavyadhi vikara vihvalagiram namati nashruyate. Where we don't even hear the names of all these bad people. Vittavyadhi means this wealth is a vyadhi. Wealth is a disease, and this disease has produced in them vihvalagira. Their tone has changed, their voice has changed, their words have changed. Vittavyadhi vikara vihvalagiram. With all this arrogance of money, it has changed. It has given vittavyadhi, not arrogance. It is the disease. The disease called wealth. It has made them lose their sense of talk. That is, they are talking in a very what can we say, in such a contemptible way, or in such a painful way, that it is because of that vyadhi called pleasure, vyadhi called wealth. Vittavyadhi vikara vihvalagiram namatina shruyate. We'll go to a place where you don't even listen, we don't even hear the names of all these people having that disease called wealth. Then we come to another section, next section. Bhoga asthairya varnana. Bhoga asthairya. Bhoga means all these pleasures. Asthairya means they are ephemeral. They are very, very transitory in nature. Asthairya. Sthira means something which is firm. Asthira is something which is not firm. Asthairiam means something which are transitory. Bhoga asthairya varnana. So what does he tell here? He says, this is again a wonderful shloka which is quoted by several Swamijis. Shloka number 31. Bhoge roga bhayam, kule chuti bhayam. Everything in this world is associated with fear. Some sort of fear or anxiety. So nowadays we see that people are modern people are having so many anxieties about small things which we did not have in our childhood. Our parents did not have, even we did not have. But somehow nowadays all these modern people, they have so many anxieties. They just have anxiety to have a baby. They have anxiety to send this baby to the school. In every matter, we see anxiety. So that is what we see here. Bhoge roga bhayam. If you want to enjoy, if you want to eat something, bhoga in this sense, bhoga means enjoy, any enjoyment, any object of enjoyment. Roga bhayam, you have the fear of getting a disease. If you want to eat rasgulla, there is a fear that you may get sugar diabetes. If you want to eat some other oily stuff, there is a fear that the cholesterol may go up. So roga bhayam is there in every enjoyment. Then kule shuddhi bhayam. If somebody belongs to some sort of noble ancestry, so the noble ancestry also is a cause of fear. Oh, my family name is gone, my family reputation is spoiled. All these honor killings also we see like that. Kulet shuti bhayam, vitte nrupalad bhayam, vitte nrupalad bhayam. If a person is wealthy and all that money is taken away, by much of the money is nowadays taken by the government also. In olden days, it was totally unpredictable. It depended on the whims and fancies of the king. Vitte rupalad bhayam. Then mane dainya bhayam. A person who is having self-respect. A self-respecting man is afraid of becoming very dainyam. Dainyam is okay, all this wealth may go, or this when I may come to a stage where I may become miserable. So that sort of dainya bhayam is there. Then bale ripu bhayam. If somebody is strong, he is afraid of a rival. If an ordinary person is not afraid, but if a strong man is there, a strong man is always afraid of a rival. We see that in big power rivalry, we see that all the superpowers, how they fight. Then rupe jaraya bhayam. This is again a wonderful thing. Rupe. If a woman is very beautiful, she is so scared of becoming old. Jaraya bhayam. Jara, geriatry, jara and geriatry, all these connected words. So this jara, a woman, a beautiful person, let us say why woman only, he or she is always afraid of becoming old. So that is the reason we always want to be young. And that is one of the biggest businesses. It seems there are only two businesses in the world which make a lot of money. That is arms and also this beauty, business of beauty and the business of these weapons. So this rupe, jaraya and the beauty industry is one of the biggest industries. Then shastre vadabhayam. If a person is scholarly, then he is afraid of another scholar. So somebody else may come and demolish my argument. So that sort of a fear is there. Then gune khalabhayam. A person is a virtuous person, but he may be blamed by useless people. A person may be highly virtuous, a good person, but many other people may be talking ill of him. So that fear also will be there. Oh, people may think ill of me. So like that, kaye kutantad bhayam. Sarvam vastu bhayanvitam bhuvinrunam vairagyameva bhayam. Everything, whatever you think in life, every bond, every association which you think of, it is associated with some fear. So vairagyam is the only thing where there is no fear. So this is a nice shloka. Kule chuti bhayam, vitte rupalad bhayam. All this is quite often quoted. Then we come to another shloka. For example, I'll take another shloka called Bhoga. Here also, here Bhartrihari gives a message. We all grow old. And when we grow old at least, and when we realize that all these things which we enjoy are so transitory and ephemeral, we should at least do something good for the society. Lokanugraha peshale namanasa, he says. So he says, Bhogaha tungataranga bhanga taralaha. They are like all these pleasures or whatever possessions we have, they are like the rising and falling of waves, the rise and fall of waves. Pranaha kshanadvamsinaha. Life is so momentary. Stokanyeva dinani yavana sukaspurti. All this youthful activity and all this youthful yavana sukaspurti, all these things, maybe youthful exuberance, it is only for a few days. Few days means a few years. Stokanyeva dinani, he says, not dinani, not only few days, maybe a few years. After that, it is not there. That's samsaram asaram eva nikhilam buddha buddha bodhakaha. Lokanugraha peshalena manasa. Try to do something good. Lokanugraha. This lokanugraha also is a word which is repeated, which is used twice in the Gita. Loka sangraha, it says. Loka sangraha is trying to do something good, which becomes a sort of model for all of the people in the society. Loka, for example, Krishna, Yadyad acharati shreshtaha, he says. So, like that, whatever a great man does, it is also seen by other people. Other people also, they follow it. So, that is how a person has to contribute something to society. And for this Lokanugraha Peshala, commentator here writes, Jnanopadeshadina samsararnava nemagnaha janaha taraitavyaha. The commentator in Sanskrit writes, this is a wise man who realizes all this futility of various pursuits. Then what does he do? He has to do something to what to say, sensitize the society, enlighten other people, to tell other people, Jnanopadeshadina samsararnava nivagna. He has to teach, he has to be a good teacher, or he has to spread knowledge. So that is the message here. He has to spread knowledge. Lokanugraha peshalena manasa. So you try to do something good in life, he says. So this is what we see everywhere in the Gita also. And I recall also one more line of W.B. Yeats. An aged man is but a paltry thing, he says. An aged man is but a paltry thing. A tattered coat upon a stick. He is like a tattered coat upon a stick. unless the soul clap its wings and sing and louder sing for every tatter in its mortal dress, he says. For every tatter in its mortal dress, an aged man has to sing better. Sing means his soul has to become brighter. He has to enrich his inner self. Unless an aged man enriches his inner self, otherwise he will be a tattered coat upon a stick. So that is how all poets. Yeats, of course, was greatly influenced by the Indian literature also. Probably he was having something of that background also. Then we see another sloka where again he says about how old age just waits like a tigress. Vyagriva tishtati, he says. Vyagriva tishtati, jara paritarjayanti. This jara, old age, is something like waiting like a tigress and which is frightening us. And all these rogasya shatravaiva praharanti deham. So many diseases, they are just waiting to attack us. They are just waiting to attack us and do attack us also. Ayuh parisravati bhinna ghatadiva ambhoho. And our lifespan is just going down like the sand in that hourglass. But here, of course, it is not the sand in the hourglass, he says. Bhinna ghatadiva ambhoho. There is a pot, it is a slightly broken pot. From that leaking part, let us say, from that leaking part, slowly water is leaking away. So our life is like a leaking pot. Our lifetime is somewhat like a leaking pot, where it is ayu is slightly going away, very gradually and slowly going away. And still, lokaha tathapi ahitam acharati iti chitram. Still, people do not do any good things. Ahitam acharati. Lokaha tathapi ahitam acharati. Ahitam means something which is bad, something which is evil. Even in old age, we see many people doing bad things. Bad things means they are so stuck with so many worries. So not worries. If a person is worried, it's okay. So stuck with so many bad pursuits. Even old people, there can be villainous old people who will be doing all bad things. So he is talking about that. Even in old age, we do not review our actions. We do not come to any good in life. What Yaksha Prashna also, there is a similar sloka. Ahanyahani bhutani gachanti hayamalayam. What is the greatest wonder? Yaksha asks. So the greatest wonder is we see all the people departing every day and day by day. But still we feel that we are very permanent. So here also it says, Lokas tathapi ahitamacharati iti chitram. You also use the word chitram. That is the great wonder, that people do not do good things even in old age. Then another sloka says, Brahmananda is the only thing, the knowledge of Brahman and abiding in that knowledge of Brahman. That is the greatest happiness. That is the greatest happiness. And to a person who has attained that happiness, all other pursuits, all other worldly pursuits, not only worldly pursuits, iha para, we use the word, two words called iha sukhamu, iha para. Iha means in this world, para means, for example, some heaven, some sort of heavenly world. So in our Puranic literature, we hear about so many heavenly worlds, some Sargaloka, some Brahmaloka, and some other loka, etc. So Goloka, Saketaloka, various lokas. So person achieves so many loka. But this Brahma Jnani is somebody who has gone beyond all those things. So all these lokas, they are again temporary. Why are these lokas said to be lower? That is because depending on the quantum of punyam which a person has got, the person goes and he stays in that, he is in that frame of mind. Loka means lokyate iti lokaha. Janma, Shankaracharya says, loka does not mean that there is some sort of some three-dimensional space somewhere in three-dimensional thing which is hanging somewhere in the space. Loka, we should not think that Swagaloka is some three-dimensional thing somewhere up in heavens. It's not like that. It is only a state of mind. It is only a state of mind, says Shankaracharya. Lokyate iti lokaha. The person, he is in that state of mind, he is creating a loka for himself. So this thing is there for some time. And thereafter, a person has to come down to earth. A person has to come down to earth and then again face music. So like that, Brahmendradi marudganan strunakanan yatra sthito manyate. So all these lokas, this Brahmajnani, he actually treats them as very, very petty achievements. So that is what we find even in the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. In the third chapter of Yoga Sutra, they talk about all these vibhutis, various supernatural powers. And Patanjali very clearly says that all these supernatural powers which are described here, they are merely distractions. And these are mentioned only to show that if a person shows sanyama, focus his mind and concentrate on them, he will attain them. It is only to encourage a person to go and achieve much higher thing. Higher thing is that knowledge of self. It is only for that all these things, intermediate things, are told. So that is what Patanjali says. That is, here also we have to see like that. From that particular angle, we have to see. So here what he says is, all these lokas, they have got their limitation. That is, they give punarjanma. And it is only Brahmajnanam which removes a person, or rather takes a person away from that punarjanma and liberates a person. Liberation means totally getting liberated from this cycle of birth and death. That is what is called liberation. Liberation is not a place. Moksha is not a place. It is a state of mind. And once the fall, after the fall of the body, there will not be another rebirth. So that is what is the idea of Vedanta. Then we come to today's last section, Kala Mahima. Today's last section is about the time. What is the role of time? We say that the time personified. If we say time personified, time we say that is the greatest. That is the devourer of all, that eats everybody. And time is the great leveler. We see so many things about, read so many things about time, so many visualizations about time. In mythology, in Western mythology also, time is visualized as somebody who is coming on a chariot with a big sickle. And with that huge sickle, he mows down everybody. So that is how that time is visualized. Time coming on a great chariot behind me. That is what one poet says. So here, time is something which changes everything, which has destroyed, which changes great empires. All the great empires are lost in time. All the great emperors are lost in time. Like that, King Ozymandias, about whom we read in school or college. My name is Ozymandias, the king of kings, he says. So all that, the king's statue is lying in that. Not even the statue is not there. Only the pedestal is there. The statue is broken into pieces. So like that, the time is something which changes everything. And this also has to be contemplated. This has to be contemplated by the seeker in order to see what is the reality. She says, Sa Ramya Nagari, there is a lovely city. There was a lovely city, Mahansan Rupati, and that king was that Rupati was emperor was a great man. Samanta Chakram Tacha, and he had so many Samantas. Samantaradul means all these suzerains, all these lower level kings. And he had such a mighty Vedagdha Parishat, such a mighty scholarly assembly was there. And Chandrabimbanana, and not to talk about Chandrabimbanana's, all lovely women were there. And Udvurtasa Rajaputra Nivaha. So all the royal retinue and all these Rajaputras means not necessarily sons of king, all these royal people of royalty, all the people of royalty, nobility, they were all there. And all these things, Sarvam Yasya Vashad Agat, Smrutipatham Skalaya Tasmai Namah, all this is now only remaining as a memory. We read about some Maurya Chandragupta, some Gupta's golden age, or we read about Rama, we read about various other things. But they are all smruti, but all these things are, they are gone. Then we see, then again he compares this column to a gambler. The gambler means a sort of dice, a player of dice. This player of dice, along with his wife, he is sitting. This player, the name is Kala personified, and the female is Kali. And Kala refers to Lord Yama also. Kalo Dandadhara Shraddha Devo, it says Amarakosha. Kala refers to Yama. Here, of course, when we say Kali, Kali means, our mind immediately goes to Kali and Siva. So Kala also refers to Shiva. Mahakalo, Mahanataha. Ahirbudhyo Mahakalo Mahanataha. There is a line in Amarakosha which says Mahakalaha. Kala also means Shiva. And Shiva also represents this laya, this resolution of the whole creation. So we can take any meaning, it doesn't matter. But there is that Kala, the time, along with the female component. They are playing dice. And who are these dice? All the human beings are the dice. And these people, and there is a big dice board. And this whole universe, the entire earth is the dice board. On this dice board, there is a house in which we stay for some time. And we have all seen this dice board. There are black houses and white houses. So on this house, Kali, black house, Kala, maybe white house, we can say like that. So yatra aneke kvachitapi gruhe tishna tatra tishtatya thaiko. In one house, there used to be lot many people at some time. Now there is only one fellow. So you can also refer to this aksha. You can refer to the dice also. In dice, we get so many numbers, and according to the numbers, also we put some coins or something like that in that house. So there used to be so many things in that house earlier. Now there is only one. It can also refer to us. There used to be 10 people in the house when there was a joint family, but now there is only one person. So yatra aneke kvachitapi gruhe tatra tishtatya thaiko. And where there was only one person, or where the house was empty, then you have come, so many people have come now. Then ittam cha imau rajani divasau dolayam. This rajani divasa, day and night, these people are they are playing. And Kala is playing with that Kali. Kala and Kali, they are playing. Kala not playing with her. She is the partner, let us say. With this Bhuvana Phalake Kridati Pranisharai, Bhuvana Phalaka, this entire world is that sheet, that what is called that gamblers, what is that sheet called? Tatra Bhuvana Phalakam. That okay, let us that sheet or plate, let us say. So, and Pranisharai, the human beings are the dice. The human beings are the dice, and then they are just staying for some time, they are going away, they are just staying some time, they are being eaten by somebody else. So like that, in that game of dice, the people are going and staying in a house for some time, they're disappearing, going there and then disappearing. So like that, all the this Kala is something which is controlling all the beings and shifting them from place to place, that is giving one life after another life. So it is going on like that. Then again, we come to another sloka. We'll read one or two last shlokas and stop with that. Sloka number 45. Sloka number 45, he says, we led a very, very dull, rather meaningless life, he says. Even people, because Bhartrihari envisages various types of people. It is not as though Bhartrihari is speaking about one himself alone. He is visualizing various people. He has visualized kings who are giving up and then becoming, renouncing the world. And he is telling about very ordinary people who are leading dull lives, but still who are not doing anything good. So he envisages several other people who lead very ordinary lives, but still do not get dispassion. He says, Nadhyatam padam ishwarasya. We were never great achievers in anything, he says. Nadhyatam padam ishwarasya. We did not contemplate on the feet of Shiva. Then vidhivat samsara vichittaye, that is contemplating on the feet of Shiva for liberation. We did not do that. And we did not do any other acts of dharma also, any other good deeds, so that we can get some punya and then we can go to a punya loka. Even that we have not done. Swargadvara kavata patana patuhu dharmo vinopartitaha. In order to knock at the doors of heaven, we have not done any good deeds. If you have done some good deeds, you can go and knock at the doors of heaven and then enter. We have not done. Then Nari Pina Payodharoru Yugalam Swapne Pinalingitam. And we have not even embraced women. Pina Payodhara Uru Yugalam Swapnepi. And all these good looking women, we have never embraced, even in our dreams. But still, we did not get any dispassion. And we are leading such stupid lives. And Matuh Kevalameva Yavanavana Chede Kutharavayam. And we have only destroyed the youthfulness of our mothers, because had she not given birth to me, she would have been younger for a longer time. By giving birth to me, she became old. Yavana vana kuthara. Kuthara means an eggs, like an eggs which destroys the yavana vanam. So we destroyed the yavanam of our own mothers. We destroyed the youthfulness of our mothers, but we have not achieved anything. So this is a very strong line. Very matu kevalameva Yavana vana chede kuthara vayam. We were like the excess which destroyed the Yavana vanam of our mothers. Then I'll read one last shloka for today. This is again a well quoted shloka. That is shloka number 50. Ayur varshasatam runam parimitam. This is a well quoted verse. Ayur varshasatam runam parimitam. People, you see, have the lifespan of a human being is about 100 years. And in that 100 years, ratrau tadardham gatam. If not half, at least a sizable portion of it goes in the night. In olden days, probably because there was no electricity, there was nothing else. They used to sleep by 8 and then wake up by 4 or 5. So half of it, half the life was in that is Ratri, and half during the day means only half of the 24 hours. So Ayur Varshasatam Runam Parimitam Ratrau Tadardhangatam. Tasyapyardha tasyardhasya parasya chardham aparam. So in that half of that is serving this fellow, that fellow, serving various people for livelihood, because we have to attain some livelihood. Then the remaining half we spent in balatva vruddhatva yoho. The remaining half, that is out of 1/4 of it is balatva vruddhatva. And whatever is remaining at the end of life, Shesham Vyadi Viyoga Dukkha Sahitam Sevadi Hirniyate. Vyadi Viyoga Dukkha. So many types of ailments, Viyoga, separation, Dukkha, pain, all these things. And still, and Jive Varitaranga Chanchalatare Saukhyam Kutah Praninam. Where is happiness for a person who is in this like these waves which come and go? Vari Taranga Chanchalatare. Vari means water. Taranga, wave, chanchalatare, they are just fickle as these waves which are rising up and falling, rising up and falling. So like that, all our happiness is like that. All our life is spent like that. Half of the life is in the night, and in that remaining half of it is in serving others, and half of it is in balatva, vruddhatva. And in vruddhatva, we have got so many ailments. So like this, we have spent our life. We have spent our lives without any sort of sukha. So that is how we complete the first 50 shlokas of this is actually the 49th shloka, not 50th shloka, 49th shloka. The first 50 shlokas, I have picked up some and then I have reviewed. So let us meet tomorrow. If there are any questions, we can see.
Thank you very much, Aravinda ji. It was a wonderful session, as always. Viewers, if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. We have just 2-3 minutes more, so 1 or 2 questions can be taken up. Aravinda ji, one of the most interesting thing that I find is these three the 3 texts. I mean, as if three legs of a tripod, focusing on Shringara, Niti, and Vairagya. Do we find any other authors, any other acharyas in the extensive Hindu tradition who have written a similar kind of works? I mean, different work focusing on different aspects of Purusharthas or on a similar format?
I cannot readily think of anybody who has covered all these things. Of course, all these subjects are covered in bigger texts like Mahabharata. Mahabharata is like an ocean which covers all these dharma, artha, kama, moksha. It also covers the 4 ashramas, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa. But one something like a prakarana grantha, it is somewhat like a prakarana grantha. I don't know why the commentators have not commented on that. But if I read, but a student of Vedanta, if he sees, he will see it as just as a prakarana grantha which is analyzing the 4 purusharthas and all the 4 ashramas, and how these things have to be coordinated in order to say purify the mind and attain this Brahmagyana. Here also he is talking about Brahmagyana. He is very much, Bhartrihari is very much in the tradition, though he is said to have given another vada called Spotavada and Vakyapadiyam and all those things. But still he is very much in the tradition, very much in sanatana dharma, very much he is saying what the Gita and Upanishads say. The approach is very similar. The method is very, very similar. That is dosha darshanam, vishayeshu dosha darshanam. That is the standard method. So that is what he is following here also, examining various achievements, and then what is the reality, what is the emptiness of those achievements, So that is what we see here. I don't immediately think of any other book which has analyzed it. I don't know. There may be, we do not know. I have no idea.
One of the questions we have received is, does Bhartrihari speaks about contrast between formal sannyasa, formal entering into sannyasa ashrama, and the development of Vairagya, internal Vairagya that anybody can actually develop. So
He is
has
also
done it.
talking, tomorrow's portion, he is talking about real sannyasa. Real sannyasa, going about and then actually taking the ashrama sannyasa. There are two types we talk about. One is called ashrama sannyasa, that is really going up, renouncing all these things. Or a person can be a sannyasa tyaga, like the Gita differentiates. A person has that inner sense of renunciation and still he does his work in society. So, but here he is going to talk about avadhuta charya, avadhuta, a person who has totally, absolutely relinquished everything and lives like that Jadabharata in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, like that, he is also talking about both levels. He is talking about Vairagya. He is also talking about sannyasa at that highest level called avadhuta.
Okay. So tomorrow's session will be very interesting.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much, Aravindaji, for such a enlightening session. Viewers, with this we come to a conclusion of today's session. Please do attend tomorrow's session same time at 11 a.m. for the second half of Vairagya Shatakam. Shri Guru Kripanam.
Thank you.